Well, gotta take off a little bit more right in here, and I want to loose this because it'll come off. And I've got a little bit of loose bark over here, so a little bit more, and almost ready to start shaping. Almost. A little tear out there. Okay, pause. Okay, I switched live centers just so I could get a little closer. The one I was using is a little fatter, so it doesn't allow me to get quite as close. So I switched to this little one right here. It's a little bit more pointy, and I can get a little closer to the center and start working on the underside because I've got a lot of tear out right here. So, you know, see if I can use a different tool and get a little bit better cut on that. So, hang on just a second. I'm gonna get this really close. All right. Oh, okay. All right, that's what a sharp tool does. So I took 2 seconds to sharpen, and it makes a huge difference. So let's finish off this side right here. Okay. Right there, not great. Okay. Okay, now so we got that, but I've still got to take care of this. So I'm going to take this and flip it around, put it in a chuck, and then we'll start working on the inside. So give me a second. All right, so this is the chuck right here, and so what I did was I cut a little tenon, which you can see, there we go. So I cut a tenon right here, and I'm going to stick that inside these jaws right here, and hopefully I measured that right. So basically I just open up the chuck, and then slide this in, tighten it down, get it nice and straight. Tighten it on this side. Do it again. All right, so that should be very secure. I can spin it for a little bit between centers, which I'll probably do. Just put this back in place for a minute, just to make sure that it's not going to fly off while I'm flattening this one edge. And then I will pull this away and then start working on the inside. But for right now, I have to, it's kind of uneven right here. So really the bowl is going to come down to about right here. So when I get done, I have to take off all of this wood right here. So I will start doing that right now. And then when I get all of that cleared off and get it kind of evened out, then I will go ahead and start working on the inside. So we take the speed down, turn it on, speed it up. All right. And actually, I think, figure out which tool I want to use here. I think I'm going to use just a regular old flat carbide tool right here. It's just got a carbide cutter on it like that. It's just a square thing, and I'll just plunge it in and kind of even things out. So here we go. Almost there. This is a lot of rough wood here, so this cutter is not the best for that stuff, but that's all right. Actually, we use my diamond parting tool. Still not a great cut, but we'll see what we can do. Maybe one more this way close. Alright. Now the main thing is it's even right here, and that's all I wanted, so I don't have those oblong areas to work with. So now I can start with another tool and try to get much finer cuts on this and maybe work some of this roughness out. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this, and then I'll have to reposition the light, so give me just a minute. All right, back to the spindle gouge, and let's see if I can't get this nub down first, and then we'll go and clean this up. Better. Getting better. All right. Keep going. time for a tool sharpening. All right, got a fresh edge on the tool. This is my fingernail gouge, or fingernail bowl gouge, because it kind of looks a little bit like a fingernail. But anyway, my favorite turning tool. So let's get back and clean up some of this stuff right here, and then get a little deeper into the bowl. It's a little harder to turn in here because that's heartwood right there, and you can see there's the pith right there. So this is the middle of the tree right there. So a little hard to turn, but let's keep knocking some out of there. All right, so I'm a little thick down here still. I've got, I don't know, about that much in the bottom. The sides are not too bad, although I've still got a lot of tear out here that I'm going to try to clean up. And then I just caught the edge right there, and I'll clean that up. That's pretty easy. So let's get a little bit more out of the bottom of this thing. That's the, there's the pith right here. So that's the actual middle, well, not exactly the middle of the tree, but that's basically where all the growth rings come out from that point right there. So let's go ahead and do a little bit more on here and see what we can dig out. Now this is a really small bowl, and sometimes working on the small ones is actually harder than the big ones, just because there's not as much room to get around and do stuff in. Pull this way for a second. So just so I can check, I've still got a little bit in here that I want to get rid of, and a little bit more thickness to scale down from, but we're getting pretty close. It's pretty thick right there, still about that thick right there. All right, a little bit more. Well, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. I do have, oh, so rough right there. I don't know if that's going to sand down or not. I'm going to try one cut down the inside right here to see if I can clean it out just a little bit, because it cuts better going this way than pulling it this way. When you come back from here, it kind of tears the wood, and this way it's going to kind of slice that wood, and that's what I want, is a slicing action to kind of get that a clean side. So one more try down at that bottom there, and if I don't want to go too far, because I don't want to screw up the bowl. So let's see what we got here. All right, I think that's a lot better. It's not perfect, and I still got some rough spots. Sorry, I'm talking through the mask. There's some rough spots in here, but that's a lot better than it was. So, yeah, I think we're going to call that a finish. See, I still got one little rough spot right down here in the corner. And a little bit on here. But, you know what, let's see if we can finish off with a little sandpaper, and I'm not going to bore you with that. So let me sand for a couple minutes, and I'll come back and show you what we got. All right, so I'm on the last kind of sanded, what they call sanding through the grits. So I start at 150, 240, 320, 400, and now I'm on 600 grit, and just kind of taking scratches out from the coarse stuff through the fine stuff, and each one basically just takes out scratches from the paper that you used previously. And kind of the more scratches you take out, the shinier the surface looks. So this is about done. I usually have some 800 laying around, and I hit it with that just a little bit too. And here's, now it's not clean because there's got all kinds of dust in there, and there are some marks in there. I mean, this was very difficult wood to turn because it was so green and it had some rot and stuff in there. But let me see, I've got one more. I've got a little bit of 800 here, so let me hit it with a little 800 just to get it that bit more polish to it. All right, I think that's about it. And that's really smooth. Now I do have like there's some little wormholes and such in there, which I kind of love those because they give a little character. So the one thing I'm going to do here is grab a towel, and I'm going to clean the wood off, and it'll give you a little bit better idea of what it's going to look like. So let me grab my naphtha here. Okay, which this is just, well, it's naphtha, but basically it's kind of like lighter fluid for all intents and purposes. But what it does do is it cleans wood really well, and it does not raise the grain on the wood. So it cleans out all the dust and lets you see what it looks like when it's finished, but without raising the grain, which then would require even more sanding. So, but there you can see on the inside of that bowl, what using the naphtha does is it just kind of cleans everything out. And a lot of guys will use naphtha just to kind of see that, or mineral spirits, and just to get a good look at what their finished project is going to look like before they put some oil on it or some kind of a lacquer or some finish. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to use on this, but that is the bowl itself. Now I still have a tenon on the back side, and so what I got to do is I got to put a different attachment on my chuck to kind of hold the face of the bowl in. So I tell you what, when I get ready to do that, I'll turn the video back on, show you how I take the tenon off. We'll finish the back side underneath the bowl, and then we'll just put a little finish on here, and that'll be that. All right, back in a few. Okay, so I'm going to do something really simple on the finish. This stuff's called Hut Crystal Coat, and it's a friction finish, so it doesn't take a whole lot. Basically, I just use a paper towel, and I'm going to put a little on here, and then start rubbing it in. And get it all coated up and covered. And then what you do is once you get it all covered with the stuff, I'm going to use just a little bit more, then you turn the lathe on and start spinning, and that creates friction, which in turn kind of hardens and polishes the coat. So it's kind of nice. I've used it for a lot of different projects and it works really well. So let me go ahead and get that fired up on here. We'll turn the lathe on. A little higher. All right, and that's it, and it's just a nice shiny finish. And I'm going to do just a little bit more, just because this had some rough edges on it, and I want to make sure that it gets really well covered. So I'm just going to pour a little bit more in here. It's probably a lot too much right there, but that's all right. And then I'll do the same thing to the outside in just a moment, at least as much of the outside as I can get before I flip it around. So let me finish this off. Whew. Oh, that's hot. All right. There you can see it's a nice shiny finish. I kind of wanted to keep the natural color, so I wasn't going to use any oil staining or anything like that. There's got some spalt going on in this thing, which is basically, you'll see all these little lines and stuff in here. That's all spalt, which is kind of a disease in the wood that spreads. Usually when the tree dies, you'll usually get some spalt, especially from logs. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do the outside of this as well. Let me get a fresh paper towel here to do this with. and just do as much of the outside as I can get right now. And then I will finish it off when I reverse the bowl. Okay, just a little bit more. It doesn't take a whole lot. All right, and then I'll turn the lathe on. Whew, it's really hot right now, but that's okay because that's what you want. You want the heat, makes the friction, which polishes and hardens the finish. And there it is. So you can see it's kind of shiny. I may need to do another coat. I'll do one more coat on here. Usually I like to use at least 2 coats on there just to kind of make sure that all the little areas that, like there's some holes and stuff in here that probably soaks some up. The nice thing about spinning it really fast is that anything that went into a hole usually spins back out with centrifugal force. So, all right, let's give this one more spin. Oh, and there it goes. It just splashed me in the face with all the stuff coming out of the holes. I usually just use paper towels for this. I don't like to use cloth because if the lathe catches a paper towel, it'll just pull it and tear it and not take my fingers with it. If it's a cloth or something, there's a good chance if it catches, it could be wrapped around my finger and pull my finger around the lathe, and that would not be fun. So paper towels usually do the trick really well. I usually use just the blue shop towels, and they're pretty great for everything. So let's see what we got here. All right, looks pretty good. So now I'm going to flip it around. I'll show you the other side, take that bottom off, give it a sand and a finish, and then this bowl will be done. So hang on just a minute. Okay, so this is the adapter for my bowl. So if I have to basically, here's the bowl out, and you can see I still have to clean up the bottom of the bowl here. There we go. So it's turned down to the sides, but this is the part that was holding it into the chuck right here. And so I have to get that cleaned off. So what I do is I actually have this thing right here, which, oh, you know what? So I'm going to have to put on the smallest one and then take it down. So give me just a second here. All right, so I have a little bit of a problem in that I can't open my jaws up wide enough to do this, but when I move it to the next size up, it's just a little too big to fit on my chuck. So I'm kind of like at a weird in-between kind of size, and I don't know if I have anything in here. See, usually they'll make a set of fatter ones, but I don't have the fatter ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to jam it on here, kind of as straight as I can, and then I'm going to expand these out so that it holds. Well, see, I don't want to slip, so I got to get it kind of right here. Okay. So that should be pretty good, and it's holding on there well. I can't turn really fast on here because obviously this will fly down. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put, I'll put my center back on. So I will put this live center back on the chuck and bring it in here. And that way, hang on a second, let me get this out of the way. Bring this in right in the middle, so got it pretty well lined up. But if I bring the live chuck, I can keep it on there as long as possible and kind of work around that and just kind of turn it off as best I can like this and work my tool up under there, and that'll hold it against the chuck or against the bowl turning. And anyway, so let's see what we've got. I'm going to turn it way down, and it looks pretty square. It's not, I don't have a lot of wobble there, so I'm going to bring the speed up just a little bit, and I'm going to try to turn off just that little bit of foot there and make a nice foot for the bottom of this thing. Almost there. All right, and a little bit convex in there. You don't want it to be round on the bottom because then it won't sit flat. So if you put a little bit of a convex in there, it sits really nice. Let me see if I can just kind of sand this up a little bit. And then probably what I'll end up doing is I'll just take this little bit off right here, and then I'll finish it off with a chisel just to get that kind of down with the rest of it. Let me see here. Let's do a little sanding. All right, and this is kind of boring, so I'll come back when I'm done with the sanding. Okay, I got the bottom cleaned off and put it back on. I had to chisel that little piece off of there, so I'm just going to put some of this on here, which is the same stuff we put on the inside of the bowl and the outside, and we're just going to hit these spots right here as best we can. And I've just barely got my center touching the middle of this bowl right here, just to kind of keep it so that we don't lose it when I turn it on. And let's see how that works here. All right, so we got I'm gonna tighten up just a hair more. All right, let's get a little friction on here. Polish this up. All right, there we go. I still got a little bit in these accents I need to clean out. I usually use my fingernail in there, but I'm so tight. That I don't want to. Okay, let me bring this back out of the way here, just to get these last little things cleaned out. All right, so we can move this, maybe, there we go. And this is the finished bowl. If I can find my key somewhere, there it is. Just loosen the tension on this. Jam it, and there we go. So you can see it's got some cool little, well, it's a little bright on there. Hang on a second. There we go. So you can see it's got some really great little lines in here that's spalting on this, which is really fun. It's got some little holes in here from little critters and stuff. The inside is really cool. It's got a little bit of tear out in here, but that's because this is an end grain bowl. And that's pretty much it. So there you go. A little bowl from beginning to end on the lathe. All right, hope you enjoyed it. Take care.